Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Vargas. I'm with the Communications Division at the Department of Planning and Development. I wanted to let you know the meeting is being live streamed on DPD's YouTube page and it's being recorded for later viewing. With that, I'll kick it over to Alderman Burnett to welcome us. Alderman?
Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett. First of all, we need to thank God that we're all here. I pray that everyone's safe and their families are safe. My prayers go out to those who may have lost loved ones during this pandemic, and hopefully anyone that may be affected right now, that they get past it and come out of it. We over here in the Near North side, we have a thing called a Near North TIF. The Near North TIF was initially put in to help with the infrastructure and the affordable housing and low-income housing and everything related to CHA because CHA couldn't pay for all of it. So the TIF has been subsidizing some of the infrastructure, maybe some of the land acquisition and things such as that, but also has been subsidizing the affordable component of the affordable housing part of the TIF, of the project. So the TIF is about to expire. So we have to go down and get it extended for 12 years. That happens in Springfield, but this is now our procedures that we have to go through with the city. We have to have a public meeting and inform people of what's going on before it goes to the CDC. And I think maybe even, I'm not sure if it goes before the Plan Commission, but then it eventually has to go to the City Council for the extension. So I just want to thank all of the people who signed up to hear and learn about it. Not only does this allow for the TIF to be used for the public housing component, infrastructure related to the public housing, but it also has potential to be used for the infrastructure, other infrastructure things in the area. Some folks may or may not know that this TIF right now is being used to help rehab Sewell Park. Matter of fact, this TIF was used to build Sewell Park. This TIF was used to build Jenner School. This TIF was used to build and do an addition on Walter Payton High School. TIF was used, if I'm not mistaken, to do some things at Salazar and some other things. So this TIF has been used to help with, if I'm not mistaken, the Brown line over on Chicago Avenue and maybe even North Avenue if it's over there. So we've been able to utilize this TIF to fix a lot of streets, not just in the Cabrini area, but some on the other side of Division Street. And we will continue to be able to use it for things like that, including the things related to the public housing property. But the public housing property, if I'm not mistaken, may be one of the things that helped us to get the extension down in Springfield, because without the TIF being in place, we couldn't subsidize the cost of being able to pay for this. So with that, and I hope I didn't steal too much thunder from the planners, with that, I'm going to allow the planners to articulate their perspective of this to you and then I think they're going to open it up for questions from folks that are on this Zoom meeting. So I just want to commend you all for getting on. Thank you for being concerned about what happens in our community. One of the things I do want to note to you all, it's not official, but we're trying to see if we can utilize some TIF dollars to get a new L stop at Division and Orleans. So we're pushing for it, and that is for our area because we don't have a stop. There's an L stop at Chicago Avenue and there's one at North Avenue. And those are two far ways, about a mile distance. And they took those L stops out many years ago because of the public housing. I think it's a social justice issue in order for us to put the L stop back there, give people the free access like everyone have in other communities. So with that, we're going to turn it over to the people in the Department of Planning. Thank you all very much. And I want to thank all of the folks from planning for coming and working overtime without getting paid to have these meetings. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett. Go ahead and get started with. Sorry. Oh, geez. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Ryan Slattery. I'm a project manager with Department of Planning and Development. I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out to schedule this virtual community meeting. I'd also like to thank Alderman Burnett for being here tonight. Appreciate your time, effort. As I've seen already, there's a few Q&As that have been. Sorry, can you guys see the screen? Let me try this one more time. I apologize. Sorry, I'd like to expand it if I could, but it's not allowing me. Damn it. Let me try.
Ryan, I've got it. I can present it if you want.
Sorry. You
No
guys,
worries.
sorry.
Does it work?
It's there, it's just not fully open.
Hold on one sec.
So we're waiting. Yeah, if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to use the Q&A and we can go ahead and get those answered or answer them at the end of the presentation as well. So great. You can go to the next slide. So here we have the agenda for this evening. First, we're going to go through the introductions of who's here with us today. Next, we'll discuss why we're here, the purpose for this amendment. After that, I'll give a quick TIF overview. Then we'll walk through the near north TIF amendment, the boundary of the redevelopment project area, the proposed land use plan, the goals and objectives. We'll also discuss the major projects that have occurred since the designation and updated budget. Once we're finished running through this presentation, we'll give an answers for Q&As that you guys might have. The next slide. We're joined here today by Chip Hastings, who's a Managing Deputy Commissioner of the Economic Development Bureau, Tim Jeffries, who's the Deputy Commissioner of DPD's Financial Incentives Division, and also with us is Ann Maroney and Ralph Kinzer, both from Johnson Research Group. They're the consultants for the project. It goes out with saying, again, thank you all and Burnett for taking your time to come out tonight. Next slide. Why are we here? The main purpose for why we're here is to extend the TIF district for an additional 12 years to allow for the continuation of the redevelopment of the Cabrini Green CHA housing within the project area. Additional actions this plan include amending the termination date, revising the budget, updating the land use plan, and minor changes to the plan language. Next slide. At its most basic, a TIF district is a funding tool that helps generate financial resources to support development projects within a specific geography. The state of Illinois passed the Illinois TIF Act in 1977, allowing for individual municipalities to designate districts, and Chicago had the first TIF district in 1984. The legislation has been amended a number of times since then, but still provides the legal framework for the use of TIF by the city. The framework allows the city to establish a TIF district, but only in places that meet specific eligibility requirements. Generally, a specific geographic area needs to demonstrate what the Act calls blighting factors. These are all defined in the Illinois TIF Act. Next. So this chart gives a pretty good idea of how TIF works. The city is required to designate a specific area as within a TIF district. When this happens, the TIF will freeze the base taxes of the properties within the districts at the time of adoption. Any growth of taxes following the designation are called incremental property taxes. Those funds are retained within the district rather than being collected by the taxing bodies for the duration of the TIF district, which is usually 23 years. Once the TIF expires, the increased property tax level, tax value will resume as normal. As an example, say your property taxes are $100, and in the same year, your property is designated within a TIF district. Then the following year, the property taxes have increased to $105. The $100 would still go to the same places they always have: the city, the schools, the park districts. And the $5, however, would go to the TIF district to use for eligible improvements. An important distinction: the property tax levy would not change for properties within a TIF, either with or without the presence of a TIF. It functions as a tax diversion, not a tax increase. Next slide. Once a TIF is in place, there are limitations as how you can and cannot be used. In brief, the uses are most commonly used are public infrastructure and facilities, affordable housing, environmental remediation, and the rehabilitation of existing buildings. To the right, the chart shows how the city uses the TIF funds within all of their TIF districts. So as you can see, almost half of it is used for public infrastructure, almost 20% is transit facilities, a little over 10% is economic development, schools, municipal facilities is 6%, schools 5.3%, affordable housing 5.1%, and then also parks and open space is at 3.6%. The next one. So near north is generally bounded by North Avenue to the north, Wells Street to the east, Chicago Avenue to the south, and the North Branch Chicago River to the west. It was created on July 30th, 1997 as a blighted area. The city received state authority to extend the life of this district back in May 2020, so a year ago. Next slide. So each district had a land use plan. Here's a general land use plan for the TIF district that relates to the current zoning of the properties. Next slide. Also, each TIF district has a list of goals and objectives. For near north, the main goals include promoting the development of low and moderate income residential development, stimulating private investment, facilitating the assembly and preparation for projects and improving infrastructure, mass transit, and public facilities. Next slide. Here we have a list of a few of the projects that received TIF funding. Northtown Village received a little over $5 million to construct 145 multifamily residential units. River Village Site G received $5 million to construct 102 condominiums. Lakefront Supportive Housing received $1 million of TIF grant to construct a 33,000 square foot, 5-story single room occupancy project that houses 96 units. Next, there's the Parkside of Old Town 1, where they received $8.8 million of TIF funding to construct 263 residential units. Also in Parkside 2B rental project, it received $10 million of TIF funding for the construction of 106 rental units. Clybourne Division received $8.1 million of TIF funds to construct 84 rental units. And finally, we have 2 park districts IJs that have happened within the TIF districts: Stanton Park at $2 million and Seward Park at $4 million. The next. And finally, we have next we have the amended budget. Adding 12 years of TIF district will result in an additional increment that wasn't projected when the TIF was created. Here's an updated budget a note to the budget, the line item dollar figures for each category are for planning purposes. The only figure that can't change without city council approval is the total redevelopment project costs line item. Next slide. So here are 4 sites that are future projects within the area. The Near North High School is anticipated to produce 482 units over 4 or 5 phases. The Oak and Larrabee site at the southeast corner of Larrabee and Oak will create approximately 78 rental units for its phase 1. It's anticipated a phase 2 will occur, but the numbers haven't been known at this time. Also, the largest of all of these is the Halsted and Division Street development, where site will produce upwards of 600 units in a multi-phase. Finally, there's approximately 440 mixed income units for the Cabrini Green row homes to return them back to the site. Next slide. So this slide shows the next steps for the process. The 2 points that are highlighted in bold, the CEC public hearing and the Finance Committee, that's where additional public comment is taken, just as a note of reference, but then also it will be introduced in June. The Joint Review Board will be in July. The hearing, which has public comment, is in August, and then it's anticipated in September. City Council introduction with Finance Committee and City Council approval in November. Next slide. So thank you so much for your time this evening. I think we're going to go through the Q&As that we've received and try to answer those questions that have not been answered via message yet. So the first one is, what's the projected completion date? So the end date, if the city does receive the extension, will be December 31st, 2033.
Thanks, Ryan. So let me scroll back up here. Start at the top. And as we answer these questions, as others come in, I'll try to keep up with them. Please share the redevelopment plan slate timeline for the Green row homes. Anna Booth, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the timeline for this, but it's a CHA project, obviously. The action today with the TIF extension does not directly impact any specific projects within the TIF. But Anna, if you have any information on that, you're welcome to chime in.
Hi, this is Anna Booth from the Department of Housing. Speaking about the row homes, actually the RFP, the request for proposal, was rescinded, and CHA is looking to resubmit that RFP to take, I'm sorry, I have background noise here. So we are looking to re-release the RFP, release that RFP. It was put on hold. CHA put it on hold, and it is to be released. CHA is currently working with HUD to see when that will be coming back out, but I don't have the specific timing as to when it will be re-released again. It is a project, as Ryan has mentioned, that is on the timeline and will be, one of the projects that's coming down the pipe. But as of today, I don't have specific timelines for it.
Okay, thanks, Anna. This one might also be for you. The buildings under construction across from the Larrabee Police Department going to be allocated for affordable housing. I'm not sure if that's a project that you've been working on, if you have background knowledge on that one.
I'm sorry, Chip, which location did you mention?
The buildings under construction right now near the Larrabee Police Department. I'm assuming that's Larrabee and Division.
So that is part of Parkside of Old Town. That is the 4th phase of Parkside of Old Town. It sits on the southeast corner of Larrabee and Division. That is a Holston real estate development. And that is one of the transactions that we have been working on.
Okay, and presumably there's an affordable housing component associated
That
with that.
is, it's CHA transformation, mixed income rental. That's correct.
Thank you, Anna. So the next question, I'm one of the owners of, I'll paraphrase here, 1332 North Halsted. Are we in the TIF district, and how does it affect our property? Are there plans to use TIF funds to improve the sewers in the area to abate flooding, which has been persistent? So Ryan, I'll ask you to confirm whether or not the location is within the TIF. I'll take the second part of that, which is just generally speaking, infrastructure, public infrastructure projects, streets, sewers, sidewalks, all of those things are eligible costs, or TIF eligible costs. So I'm not aware of specific plans to work on that location in particular, but it's certainly costs that could be reimbursed or paid for with tax increment financing. So Ryan, can you just confirm whether or not that's within the boundaries? I don't have the map up.
It is.
Okay. So what percentage of newly constructed units will be set aside for low income units? Anna, I'll take a shot at this one, and then if you want to piggyback on anything I offer, that's fine. So any projects that are funded utilizing TIF proceeds required to provide a minimum of 20% affordable units currently. So whatever the project is, whether it involves housing, if it's funded with TIF proceeds, there's a minimum requirement currently of 20% under the current ARO ordinance. And I don't know if you have anything to add to that or not.
Additionally, any of the mixed income, and all of that should be mixed income over there, will require CHA replacement housing, and CHA units can go as high as 40% of however many units will be put on a particular site. So it will be a combination of CHA replacement, affordable, and we have now started going with the 80% area median income in some markets, down to the 30%, and then a portion will be market rate. Again, depending on how many units on a particular site, 40% of those units could go back to CHA replacement housing. So it would be on a case-by-case basis, depending on how many units are being planned for a particular site.
Why does it feel like only affordable housing is being built in the area? That's all that was presented tonight. What other projects besides affordable housing are being invested from the TIF? So Brian, I'm not sure if one of the slides was specific to near north, or if that sort of modified pie chart was TIF as a whole across the city in terms of what we have invested TIF funds in. But generally speaking, if you're talking about the allocation of increment, we don't fund private residential development projects. So the percentage of TIF used for private residential development is zero. We're not able to, it's not eligible. So typically, and I think the slide reflected this, the vast majority of TIF funds are used for public infrastructure projects, streets, sewer, sidewalks, L stations, public facilities, schools, parks, libraries, which Alderman Burnett mentioned, and affordable housing units, which we've talked about as well this evening. Next question is related to designated bus lanes or similar public transit improvements along Division or Halsted. Cindy, I don't know if you have any specific info on this question. If not, that's fine. But again, public infrastructure improvements to the streets, the sewers, the sidewalks are eligible costs. That would include things like reinstituting a grid system where there isn't one, and any sort of public transit improvements as well. Ryan, do you want to take this question? Will the tax base year for the TIF be the original 1997 or 2021? And after that, if you want to cue this one up as well, where does the funding for the TIF come from? And I'm getting some background noise as well.
So the tax base, Second, okay, so the tax base will stay 1997. It's just a continuation. The TIF funds, they're coming from the base fee that was established in 1997. Any incremental property taxes to that are collected within the TIF districts. So that's what is used for the TIF funds.
So Ryan, did you have a slide on the funding where TIF comes from? Do we, I didn't know, I don't know if we covered that specifically.
I can pull it up here. Give me 1 second.
That's fine. I'll keep going. Cindy, I don't know if you're aware of any.
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry. Ryan, I don't know if you want to take a quick second and reiterate what you discussed when you talked over this slide.
yeah. So how the TIF works? So there's a base that's set the year that the TIF is designated. So if we look at this pie chart, this 300,000. So if the base was set there, then in the following 10 years, there's been incremental growth, incremental EV of 40,000. The 300,000 still goes to the taxing bodies. The incremental growth goes to the TIF district in order for to pay for eligible TIF costs. So then by the time it gets to the expiration date, then it all goes back to the taxing bodies at a higher rate. So in 2043, it's 365,000 rather than the 300,000.
Okay, Brian, do you want to quickly, looks like we have a couple questions related to boundaries. Do you want to just quickly run through the boundary slide again? Looks like there's 2 or 3 questions related to the boundaries.
So the far north, this is North Avenue. This to the east, most part. So these portions to the far east, that's the south is Chicago Avenue. That's the first south that goes. And then as the North Branch Chicago River, Halsted up to the north, and then the south is Kingsbury. So there is the cutout here. That's not within the districts of Black Hawk down to Gerta. Yeah, down to Gerta and Schiller Place. That area not included, but otherwise it's the North Branch Canal is the west, to the east, the farthest east is Falls Avenue, to the south is Chicago Avenue, and to the north is North Avenue. We also have the TIF portal if anyone's interested to look to see if their address is within a TIF district. You can type in your address and it'll point to and let you know if it is within a TIF district. If you just Google search TIF portal, it will find it. That's the city of Chicago's TIF.
And Ryan or Tim or somebody else, when you get a chance, if you could paste that into the chat so folks have access to it, that'd be great. Okay. So this question about the potential for an L line stop, I think the alderman mentioned that in passing. I'm not sure if there's any real plans for or vetted plans for that right now. I think he was using that as an example of something that could be funded using TIF proceeds. In the last several years, we funded numerous new L stations across the city. So that's certainly something that could be funded with increment from within the TIF moving forward. There's a question here. What impact will the extension of the TIF have on my real estate property taxes? It has no impact on how the property taxes are paid or the amount of your property taxes. What it does impact is where and how a portion of your property taxes are spent. So for instance, increment generated within the Near North TIF is only spent within the Near North TIF on all the sort of projects that we've talked about as being eligible for such expenditures. Cindy, I don't know if you're aware of a specific project at Mohawk, Larrabee, and Clybourne. I can't picture the site myself. If not, that's fine. We can come back to it. The next question is specifically, looks like a CDOT type. So Larrabee streets between Chicago and North is terrible. I agree. It has a lot of deep potholes. Are there plans to repave the area? I'm not aware of any plans. It's certainly an expense that could be used, or it's certainly a use that could be utilized TIF funds to have it done in the future.
Chip, I think I can add to, especially about a lot of questions about, can something be done? I mean, I think for a lot of the questions, the answer is yes, but it's also important to note that, TIF is a funding source. And so for some of these questions, we might have specific answers about, Larrabee or very specific things, but it is certainly in the future an option to fund work like that. And I'm not sure that Ryan, Chip, or I, that's just the details of things like that are not necessarily where we live professionally, but I guess good news is that it could fund work specifically for projects like Larrabee in the future.
And Tim, on that point, one of the other questions sort of leads into that. What is the process for getting TIF funds applied to a particular project within the TIF? For example, sewers on Clybourne.
I mean, I think a great place to start is with your alderman. He's the eyes and ears on the ground, and lets departments like DPD, like CDOT know when there are issues. I'll put in I have nothing to do with the city's 311 app, except just to say it's great. Everyone, you can get it on your phone. You can super easily, quickly report things like sewer problems, potholes, and the Department of Planning, AIS, Department of Sewers, like they all use that data that comes in. It's how they help prioritize things. So that's a good way to let people know that problems are happening as well.
Anna, I think you already addressed this question about the row homes. What is happening on the former high school on Larrabee property near North High School, I assume? And I think you touched on this, but I don't. Can you answer this question, please?
Are they speaking about the current demolition that is going on? We had to demo the high school to make way for the new construction of mixed income housing on that site. And so the demo had to happen. This was one of the sites that was RFP'd, and a developer has been chosen. Once the building comes down and it is clean, it is remediated, the developer will be able to build. Currently, they are in the process of solidifying their funding sources for this.
Thank you, Anna.
So that'll be a future home of mixed income, combination of rental and for sale housing.
Does the TIF put any additional restrictions on property owners that are not there currently? The short answer is no. I don't know, Tim or Ryan, if you want to expand on this. I'm not sure where that's the short answer. I'm not sure what was sort of behind the thinking on the question, or if there's something else you can expand on.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's an additional line item when you get your property tax bill twice a year, but whether that, if that line wasn't there, the bottom line of your property taxes would be exactly the same if it wasn't. So
What percentage of the planned future use will be for affordable housing versus other public infrastructure? Seems like this TIF has historically had an outsized amount allocated to affordable housing. Anyone else is welcome to jump in here on the panel, but I think the short answer to that is there are some restrictions. We're required to build a certain amount of units, and I can speak to this, but it's largely replacement housing. I think we covered this in terms of what we typically spend on a percentage basis. And the vast majority of funds are typically for public infrastructure improvements. I'm not sure if anyone wants or is able to talk to the requirements related to replacement housing and the constraints within which we're operating as far as funding future housing. But
So if I can say something, Chip, because I see a lot of questions about the housing. So one of the reasons that we utilize TIF to help with the redevelopment of CHA property. And for those of you who don't know, there used to be thousands of units of CHA resident in the buildings that were up. We tore all those buildings down instead of replacing all of those units. So we're trying to help CHA instead of replacing all of those units as 100% CHA, which CHA can do on their property. We're helping to subsidize it with the TIF dollars so that it can be mixed income, affordable, so it can be market rate affordable and CHA. CHA doesn't have to pay for the affordable part, the TIF pay for the affordable part, which helps subsidize the developer to bring in the market rate also. So the TIF helps us to encourage mixed income. That's why it was initially put in. But CHA do have the right, as they do with any of their property, to just put all CHA back up if they wanted to, if they didn't have our help in order to be able to do this. So I don't want people to get it twisted and think because we're using TIF, we're putting more units back. Actually, we're using TIF dollars to help put less CHA units back, but more mixed income units back on the spots, because most of those properties had 19-story buildings, 12-story buildings, 8-story buildings with like I say, thousands of units of CHA property. And CHA property is CHA property. It's not the city property. It's not private property. But we were able to get them to work with us to make it mixed income property and bring the buildings down.
okay, thank you, Alderman. Just trying to, give me 1 second. Oh, so related to one of the last questions, what are the plans for the park adjacent to the former high school? I attended a meeting over a year ago and the city was moving to the soil sample stage. And I'm not sure if you.
So that part, just north of the high school, that is the park district's park. And I know that they have plans. I believe they put a gate up. I know that they have plans to overhaul it, make it accessible for all of the neighbors. But that is property of the park district, and they would have to speak to the timing as to when that park would be completed.
And also, Anna, that park, there's a park that the community asked for.
Absolutely. That's why I say it will be open to all the neighbors, but it is property of the park district. And again, I do know that they have plans to overhaul it, but it will be for all the neighbors.
And it's also being paid for through the TIF dollars. If we didn't have TIF, we wouldn't be able to have that park.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the question about getting sections of road repaved, you can also ask the alderman to help with that. We did that a couple of years ago, asked about our alley, and he put a request in and it was done. So thank you, Alderman Burnett, my addition. Are there any plans for that cutout area in the middle of the teal TIF location map? Black Hog towards Goethe, in between Hudson and Sedgwick.
That's privately owned property. That's owned by two. One is owned by Related, and the other one, I can't remember the name of the organization that owns the building. So both of those are privately owned properties.
Okay, thank you. What is replacement housing? Replacement housing, and correct me if I get this, if I butcher this, replacement housing refers to replacing CHA units that used to exist on site.
Correct.
So is it accurate that property taxes in this area won't be affected until 2043? Property taxes are not impacted by this action, the extension of the TIF one way or the other. Again, I think I answered this earlier. It's simply a way of spending the property taxes that are paid within this, the boundaries of the Near North TIF.
And also just to clarify, it's the TIF is going to expire 2033.
Thank you, Ryan. What percentage of former Cabrini Green units have already been replaced, and what percent remains to be accounted for? Sorry to put you on the spot, Anna. I don't know if you have this information at hand or if you can ballpark it. Okay.
I do not. I can, excuse me, I do not have that information at hand.
Okay. Is it safe to say that all the replacement units have not been, or all the Cabrini Green units have not been replaced on site, obviously?
That is correct. It's safe to say that we still have the Near North High School site. We still have the Oak and Larrabee site. We still have the Halsted and Division site. As mentioned earlier, the park site of Old Town that is going up at Larrabee and Division on the southeast corner. That's mixed income, and so that will have some CHA and affordable. So we still have quite a few sites to bring back online, and we have brought quite a few sites back online, but I do not have the number count.
Okay. This is a variation of a question I've answered a couple times. If the TIF is not renewed, would property taxes go down? No, they would be distributed differently. How are commercial owners impacted? Tim, do you want to address this one?
Was the question how are private property taxes?
Yeah. How are commercial owners impacted? Sorry, I lost the question. I'm happy to answer it though.
I mean, I think that on a day-to-day basis, the answer is, not a ton. I mean, certainly you benefit from projects that are funded with TIF, as frankly everyone in the city does. Obviously, you have a little bit more proximity, but things like as we mentioned earlier, the Division Street Bridge, the replacement. Once that's done, it's an extremely large piece of infrastructure that will benefit you, help people come to the area more. But on a day-to-day basis, it's not much changes for your business, not much changes for your property tax burden.
How will the decision of this extension be made? Was it decided by a group or panel? Will this be a vote by property owners? So this is the public hearing tonight is followed. There's a very sort of regimented legislative process. Eventually, the city council will vote on the extension. It's presented to CDC. There's a public hearing at the CDC, the Community Development Commission, and then it's presented to both city council and the appropriate committee. It's voted on at city council and ultimately approved by city council. When is the Cabrini Green project expected to be picked back up? I'm assuming, and I'm sorry to, I'm assuming that the question is rooted in the sense or the false expectation, perhaps that it's stopped at this point.
Right. Because, excuse me, just as I just mentioned, we have the Near North High School site that's coming down the pike. That's part of Cabrini. Oak and Larrabee that's coming down the pike. That's part of Cabrini. Austin and Division, the row homes. So I'm not really sure what that question is leading to. We haven't stopped. We continue to work on it. So I'm not sure if I'm answering that correctly, but you know, only to say that we do have projects that are coming down the pike.
Okay.
And I should also say that, you know, these projects take time to bring online because they're multi-finance, multi-layered. You know, TIF has been so helpful for us to help us get the affordable and CHA back online. But they do need additional monies to bring units back online. And so they, you know, developers that are building over there, they have to apply for first mortgages. They have to apply for additional funding from the city or the state or what have you. And so that could be why it seems like it's a lull, but they have to have their financing in place to move forward. And because it's so many layers of financing that is needed to get these buildings back up, because we're trying to do 70 to 80 to 100 units at a time. And they have to apply when the funding rounds are open at the city, at IDA. They have to wait for CHA to get their funds. That could be what they're talking about. It seems like it's slow coming back online, but it's not that we've stopped working. It's just that the developers have to secure funding to move forward.
Okay. For new properties developed during the TIF period, would 100% of their property taxes go to funding the TIF district? The answer is no, and I think Ryan covered this a little bit as part of the presentation. Essentially, if you have a vacant lot and you have a vacant lot in year one, and in year two, the TIF is put in place, the property taxes, the EAV over and above that base that was created or that you started with in year one, for the next 23 years would go towards, that's the increment over and above the base. So it really depends on when the TIF was established, what the base EAV was for that particular property at the time of the TIF being designated, and then what it looks like over each of the next 23 years. When will the commitment for public housing be fulfilled? I think Anna's touched on that a bit. We've talked about the construction plan for the Near North High School sites. We've talked a little bit about the row homes and the status of the row homes. I'm not sure I understand the next question. I'm going to go back up to the top, and I apologize if I missed any. I'm going to take another look because the Q&A is jumping around as people add and remove their questions. Are there any projects coming up that would be going next to Cabrini Green vacant lots? I'm not sure what that's referring to, other than the projects that we mentioned as part of the presentation and the projects that Anna has talked about. What does re-release mean? Would new projects be submitted? I'm guessing this is in response to the RFP for the row homes. Tim, I don't know if you want to can you take a shot at that one? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not.
I meant to kick that to Anna, sorry.
Okay.
I will say that row homes are CHA property. again, it was put on hold through HUD, and CHA is working with HUD to get that hold released so they can go through the RFPs that they received, go through the public comment process for that, and hopefully choose a developer to move forward for the overhaul of the row homes. So the CHA had to put it on hold. It's CHA property. They had to put it on hold. They're working with HUD to get that hold released to move forward. I don't have the timing as to when that will occur. CHA has been asked that question several times, and they have been actively working with HUD to move forward for the row homes.
Okay. The letter did not give details. What is planned and what is the specific area being addressed? I think actually I may have already covered that one early on. We went back through the boundary area. How do current owners apply for funds for rehab of buildings? So the rehabilitation of existing buildings is an eligible cost, depending on the project. We have a SPIF program. It's not currently funded in New York North, but as an example, you can utilize TIF funds to fund the SPIF program to assist existing local businesses to build out retail space. If you have an existing building that you want to rehab for affordable residential units, or if you have an existing building that you want to rehab for a commercial project, all of those are things that would be eligible, that you could apply for and would be eligible for TIF. Oak Street between Hudson and Orleans has no sidewalks. Considering there are kids at the By the Hand Club for Kids and pedestrians walking through the area now more than ever, are there plans for TIF money to address this?
So if I may, Chip,
Please.
they're referring to a street that's adjacent to on both sides of it is CHA's property.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a street, there never was a sidewalk there. And definitely when they do the redevelopment of the property, we will put a sidewalk in, but transportation most likely won't allow for a sidewalk to go in on a property that's going to be reconstructed, that's going to be developed, I should say, in the future, because that'd be sort of a waste of money. But we did reconstruct the street and made it smoother, and so it's easier for folks to walk down the street. Walking on the side of it is a little more challenging. But if they would allow me to just put a sidewalk there, we would put it there. I check and see, but I doubt it if they know that construction is going to happen in the future.
Okay. Thank you, Alderman. Why does it seem as if you are trying to recreate the projects to help bring down the neighborhood? How is this an incentive for current or potential market priced residents to stay in the neighborhood? So I think we talked a little bit about this during the presentation. I'm assuming the first part of that question is a reference to affordable housing, which I'll sort of park for now. However, things like, and Alderman Burnett specifically mentioned this, things like Seward Park, things like schools, parks, libraries, all of those things have been invested in previously through this TIF. And public infrastructure projects and public facilities across the city account for the highest percentage of expenditures for TIF. So that's how local residents, local businesses, whether they're market rental units or affordable rental units or whatever, those are the ways that local residents and businesses benefit from having the TIF in place. And I think I've answered a couple of the rest of these. Let me just scroll down. Question about the row homes, which we've addressed. Tim, do you want to take this one? I'll read it out loud. I heard you respond several times that the TIF does not increase or decrease property taxes. Currently, the TIF appears as a line item on my tax bill and accounts for approximately 90% of my property taxes. If there is no TIF, please explain why the tax bill will not be reduced.
So if the TIF district, again, it's a diversion. So the amount that you're being taxed would be, you'd be taxed that same amount regardless. It's the point, the 90% that's going to the TIF is there. The 10% was what the tax value was when the TIF was first established in 1997. So if the TIF wasn't in place, that 90% would get divvied up at the rate that your 10% is pushed, and it would get, the pie would be split in a different way. So instead of 90% being pushed to the TIF, 50% of that would go back to the CPS, 25% would go to the city of Chicago, 20% would go to the Cook County, all of that stuff. The amount, the net gross value would remain exactly the same. So again, it's a diversion, it's not a tax increase.
Okay. What is the status of the Wayman AME church site at Elm in Cleveland? I don't know if that's a development project or Alderman Burnett, if you're familiar with anything that's going on at that location.
So right now, that location, as far as I know, there's no plans for anything to happen with that. I don't know if they selling it or they have a buyer or whatever the case may be. I do know that we just trying to get them to clean it up and keep it secure.
Okay. Thank you. Marshall Fields, is this staying and separate? Yes, and I'm not sure that it's within the boundary of the TIF. Ryan, can you confirm? I believe it's on Cedric on the west side of the street, north of Division. While Ryan is checking on that.
The Marshall Field is not in the TIF.
Thank you. I think I answered this one. Will the presentation be available? Oh, will the presentation be available for review, or can we access this meeting for review for those that missed the beginning of the meeting? Tim, did you want to answer that question?
Yeah, we're recording the presentation right now. It's being live cast on YouTube, and you can watch the video with the presentation at the beginning once it's done.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Here's another question about the Near North High School site, which I believe we've addressed. I'm not sure I understand this question. How does the TIF money used as a grant for an affordable unit be affected by the plan to extend the TIF dollars? If anyone wants to take a shot at answering that, I'm not entirely sure I understand what that means.
I mean, I guess at a high level, we need the TIF to be extended so that the city and the Tourist Department of Plan, or Department of Housing rather, and the CHA can continue to have a funding source to construct affordable housing. So it's, the TIF is, as we've said before, is certainly a valuable tool to help continuing to create these affordable housing units in the area.
And then also, Tim, just to reflect on some of the things that I said, most of the TIF dollars in relationship to the CHA's property is being utilized to pay for the infrastructure, to put the streets back, sewers in. TIF money was used to tear the buildings down, all of those things. And a lot of the affordable housing actually is CHA and the developer gets tax credits. Either they get tax credits from the city, from the state, and or from HUD. But some of the TIF money may be used for that. But most of the TIF money, from what I understand, is being used to put the street grids in and the infrastructure work that goes on around there in regards to CHA's property.
Okay, there was a question I just lost it, but there was a question related to, are there plans in the works for a dog park? And is that something that we could fund using TIF? So I'm not sure if there's plans in the works for a dog park. I can tell you the park district has their own rules in terms of funding dog parks. Any public use, whether it's a dog park, playground, a field house, those are all public uses, public facilities, and they're eligible for TIF money. But the park district, I don't want to mislead anyone. I'm not entirely sure what the rules are. There's a funding. Yeah, please.
If I can answer that, TIF money is being used for a dog park as part of the new park that's going to be built on Larrabee and what's that, Blackhawk. So TIF, a dog park is going to be over there by the Near North High School, and we are using TIF dollars for that. So part of it is going to be a dog park. Yes.
Okay. Great.
And sorry, Chip, it's Cindy Rubik. There's also going to be a privately funded dog park, not funded by TIF, but privately funded as part of the North Union project that was just reviewed at Plan Commission last week. And that's at just north of Oak, right next to the O line, next to Walter Payton.
Okay. So if the TIF expires, a larger percentage of our property taxes go to the state rather than being designated specifically to our neighborhood. I think we've addressed that a few different ways. The short answer is, your property taxes are your property taxes. Having a TIF in place merely impacts the geography within which the increment that's created within the TIF is spent. How much money has been dispersed to developers in the area? Ryan, I don't know if we have that information or if we can answer the question as to how much has been dispersed overall for all projects, public and private, because I know the lion's share of the expenditures have been related to public improvements, not to developers. So I don't know if you want to see if you have that or if we have access to that information while I keep going. What TIF funded projects will be completed within the next 2 to 3 years? Ryan, was there a list of a handful of projects that are in the works on the slide? Those were private development projects, if I remember correctly, housing projects.
Yeah, so the ones that we have that are, I would defer to Anna for the timing if it's 2 or 3 years, but the ones that are known are the Near North High School site, the Oak and Larrabee site, and the Halston division. Those are the three that are the known for the near future, but they're all phased projects, so it may not be within the next 2 or 3 years, but those are part of the reason why we need to extend the TIF districts.
But also, Ryan, if I may intervene, also that park is being funded by the TIF. But also there's a plan to widen Division Street in coordination with the new bridge that's being paid for by TIF at Halsted and Division. So Division Street is going to be widened between, I think, Halsted and Larrabee, if I'm not mistaken, and that's going to be paid for through the TIF also.
There's a question here about traffic. I'm not sure how to address that, and given the context of our conversation.
I think it's fair just to say, Chip, that when projects are reviewed, approved, individual projects, I mean, not within the context of the TIF district, they go through the zoning process or the building permitting, and generally traffic is studied and decisions are made when that is done. This area is, of course, very lucky in how connected it is to transit, though. So that's certainly a positive for the area, and it's a factor with traffic as well.
There was a question on here. I'm trying to find ones that I missed. There was a question on here about the red line, which I don't see any longer. I don't think the red line. I don't think the red line is within the TIF. It's east of the near north TIF. I think that was in reference to the new station at Division between Clark and LaSalle. There's a question here about the Division Street widening that the Alderman mentioned. What is the timing of the Division Street widening the Alderman mentioned?
Yeah, I'm not sure the dates. The Department of Transportation just showed me something in reference to that. I got to get the exact dates of it. So we'll try to get those dates and try to share it with NNUP. If you all can get on NNUP's website, I try to get transportation. I actually try to get transportation to come to one of their meetings and present it.
Okay. Thank you. Why is street widening part of TIF? I think I've covered this a few times. Infrastructure, all public infrastructure improvements are TIF eligible costs. I'm looking for questions that I may have skipped. Can you explain how any portion of the TIF actually comes back to the schools in the area? Budgets and CPS are ridiculously tight. Tim, I don't know if you want to answer this question, but I will say that the TIF extension doesn't impact the CPS budget. And just in terms of capital improvements, I think the Alderman mentioned this. Several schools in the area have been funded. Improvements have been funded using proceeds from the near north TIF. I don't know if Tim, if you want to add anything else, but I think that pretty much covers it.
No, I put this in some other questions, but over the last 10 years, about $25 million has come from this TIF to Chicago Public Schools for various projects. At Peyton, at Franklin, at I'm gonna mispronounce this. Manier. In general, it's state law that says that the schools have to set a levy, a tax levy, of how much money they need per year, and they are required to fully fund it. And that is what happens. So CPS is requesting the amount of money that they believe is necessary to fund their schools and their operations.
Is there a site to, I just lost it. Is there a site to view the status of the TIF approval and plan projects in queue as development progresses or changes? So there's two things. Well, there's two things, and then one of you can add on if you like. The TIF annual reports, which are published every year in the summer, provides information on all the projects, public and private, that have been funded in the previous year and years. On the TIF portal, you can find information related to projects that are being funded. And you can also find information related to the TIF database reports, which shows projects that we anticipate funding.
And Chip, and I don't know if you all explained in the beginning of this that in order to qualify for a TIF, you have to have certain things to qualify to get a TIF put in, one being blighted, and other things such as that. I think for this extension, was it not but for having to finish up with all of the vacant property the CHA has, we probably wouldn't be able to qualify for an extension of the TIF.
Yep, that is, thank you. That's a good point. Absolutely correct. And I think you've addressed this question about the Cabrini Row House development being postponed. Are there any plans to add tennis courts in the area? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if others on the call are aware of any imminent plans for a tennis court. And then there's a general question here about livability and congestion that I believe Tim addressed a few minutes ago. I think I'm all caught up. I don't know if others have questions they want to pose or if there's anything any of the panelists want to address, but I think I'm pretty much caught up. If not, I'm happy to turn it over to Alderman Burnett, or if our Ryan, if you have a closing statement on our end, and then we can turn it over to Walter Burnett to head us out.
If you guys have any questions or additional comments, the CEC public hearing, it will be in August, where public comment, and then also Finance Committee in October. So, yeah.
Okay, great. And then the next steps, real quick, for those on the immediate next steps. I'm sorry, you said.
Sorry, so the CC public hearing, August 10th, that's the next decision where public comments is allowed or is available. And then also the Finance Committee, the date hasn't been set yet, but it'll be October.
Okay, right. And then Alderman Burnett, I'm not sure if there's anything you'd like to add, or we're happy to close the lights for you.
Sure. Just want to say I want to come in and thank all of the folks on the community who got on to this call. Appreciate all of your questions. I'd like to thank the Department of Planning staff for all of you guys working later. And I do this with you guys almost 3 nights a week for a long time. So I appreciate all of y'all working late, so you all should be commended also. You know, if it was not for us having TIF, we wouldn't have new parks, new schools, new libraries, and we wouldn't be able to continue to do some of the infrastructure work. A lot of those streets have been repaved and sidewalks been put in because of the TIF. We're always in competition with other wards, and we only get so much to do from our regular menu money. The TIF gives us extra money in order to do extra things in relationship to infrastructure work. For those of you who do have some concerns about some infrastructure things, if you can call my office, talk to Reggie in my office, 312-432-1995, we can look into them. Just must tell you, with arterial streets, we have to go through the Department of Transportation, and we have to deal with their timeline on getting to those things, and also some of the relationships with the state streets and county streets, and all of the streets aren't city streets, but we will work with all of those things and try and get them done. Because we do have TIF, we do have an edge. Just like when I was asked to rehab Staten Park, when I was asked to rehab Sewell Park, we utilized TIF dollars in order to do those things and put in playgrounds. And now we're getting ready to fix up the playground at Sewell Park and some other things. And we continue to utilize the TIF dollars for the things that we need in this community. And we're so blessed. We also rehab Skinner School, right? That was paid for out of the TIF. And also the other school right next to Skinner, I think is Noble now, but it used to be Quest. We also put in bike lanes, and you know, a myriad of things have been done with the TIF in this community. And we would continue to put those things right back into the community to help have a impact on people's property values and also on their livelihoods in the area. And we're going to continue to try and push for a L-stop at Division in Orleans, because as I said, I think it's a social justice issue around all the public housing in the city. When they built public housing, they took out the L-stops. And I think that was a disservice, an injustice. And now they want folks to move back to the community and they have to go to work. So I think they have to have good transportation in order to do that. So we're going to continue to fight for that. And please, you can also touch bases with NNUP, get on their website. We'll try to get them the information in relationship to this and continue to work with you all. And as I said, I saw an anonymous person, which is fine. You can be anonymous, but CHA, you all moved around CHA property. CHA property didn't move around you. CHA property was there first. CHA residence was there first. You moved to their community. They didn't move to your community. They have a right to come back. When their buildings was torn down, they got a commitment that they had a right to come back if they chose to come back. But they're coming back with mixed income housing. I'm very pro low income and affordable housing everywhere, but not pro and low income housing in one place, all in one place. So we're going to continue to try and get mixed income housing everywhere that we can, because we think that people can live in harmony amongst each other and everybody deserve a decent and affordable place to live. And actually, as I said, by CHA residents allowing for us to tear down the buildings, we actually had to go to court in order to be able to do that because we were on hold. It gave a lot of you all an opportunity to build your homes, have your property values go up. And I haven't noticed anybody's property values ever going down in that community, no matter what gets built in relationship to CHA's property, because we're putting back decent and mixed income housing back on the properties. And we're going to continue to do that. And that's guaranteed to come back. It's not going to go away. So if you anonymously expect that it's going to go away, it's not. And if you feel like you don't want to live around CHA residents that are coming back to the community that they were there first, well, maybe you should move, because it's going to continue to come back. And not just here, but all over the city of Chicago, it's coming back on CHA's property. That's HUD's property, it's government's property, it's CHA's property, and everyone should be happy that it's not going to just be all CHA. It's going to be mixed income. So I just want to let everyone know that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Burnett, for your continued leadership. It's always a pleasure working with you. Really appreciate your time tonight, and for the community, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to engaging you as we move forward. And I think you have a couple of outlets to pose any additional questions. And on that note, I'm happy to say appreciate you joining us this evening, and we hope to talk again soon. So thank you.
Thank you.